Are you ready to hoist the colors? Now, time for the most in-depth look at the world of ECU athletics. Welcome in to Hoist the Colors with your host, Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game. Watch the show live on Facebook and at 943thegame.com. Now, here's your host, Stephen Igo.
Welcome in. It is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday, April 23rd edition of the program. We are live on YouTube, live on Facebook, and live on X as well. All of those channels should be open for comments and questions. If you've got anything to say, drop it there. We'll get to it over the course of the next hour. Excited about today's show. I do want to remind you guys, as always, you can download the podcast channel through Apple Podcasts or Spotify and through the IVX Media app and get our shows archived. Of course, they are archived as well on 94.3 The Game's YouTube page as well as Facebook. So if you miss it live, and now the Hoist the Colors X page, you can view it after it is archived as well. So appreciate everybody tuning in. Busy hour ahead. I'm going to catch up with one Scooter Scott Rogers. We're going to talk to Scott as he was at the UAB series last weekend. Former play-by-play voice for ECU baseball. You guys know him well. We'll catch up what he's doing, his thoughts on Pirate baseball, and his thoughts on the suddenly surging Braves, although they did lose last night to the St. Louis Cardinals. Alec Burleson, I believe, a couple hits in that one, former Pirate. So we've got Scooter to get to. We also have spring football 3 days away from the Purple Gold game inside Dowdy-Ficklen Stadium. We'll touch on that. We talked to the coordinators, John David Baker and Josh Aldridge, yesterday after practice, so some headlines coming out of that as well. We're a day away from the NFL draft. We potentially have ECU basketball recruiting news. I've got my sources telling me some news on the way there. We'll keep an eye on. That could be announced here shortly. Philip Pilkington is producing today's show. Phillips, Boston Red Sox won Game 1 of the series against my Seattle Mariners. Congratulations, Philip. And look, Seattle, I think, is now 2-10 in their last 12 games in Boston. They have not won a series in Fenway since 2014, so this is to be expected on my end. I have zero faith when they travel to Fenway.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's tough traveling West Coast to East Coast, but dang, you guys have been out here for a week and a half now. You think the jet lag would be done. Maybe you guys are missing your own bed. You looked pretty good there at the beginning, and it just kind of fell off once you had to go to that bullpen. So, however, I do want to say I was right. When it was 2-1 Sox, you texted and said 2 wins were going to be enough, and that the Sox didn't need any insurance runs. Of course they did, and luckily they got them. So, Game 2 of it tonight. I will have it on a second TV, but I will definitely be more focused on the Celtics playoff game. And Dom still hasn't texted me back as to whether or not he's coming over. We try and watch all the Celtics playoff games together, so we'll see.
All right, well, the Celtics, I think, I don't know, they may have an easier time than the Red Sox, but we'll see. I'm just hoping Seattle wins one of the next two, and I'll be happy. But you and Dom, y'all can live in y'all's fantasy land for the next few days. Pretend your baseball team's good for beating up on the hapless Seattle Mariners.
Oh, we know our baseball team's not good. Heck, we can't even beat the White Sox.
That is true. That is true. So more on that in the days ahead. Tomorrow, by the way, we will have an NFL draft special. So looking forward to that. As Brady Thomas, Hoist the Colors intern, will join us in studio to preview the draft. We'll talk Savone Revel, ECU cornerback. We'll see where he lands. We'll try and figure out where exactly he will get drafted. All right, so let's start with spring football. I am seeing the post for basketball has been posted, so we'll address that here in a little bit, Phil. But we'll save that for segment 2. I guess I'll go ahead and announce that news so people at least know what it is. So, all right, so ECU basketball just got a commitment from Providence transfer Eli Delore, 6'10", Ford. Visited the last few days. He has posted on social media that he is committed to East Carolina. So if you would like to go do your research before we talk about him, you guys are more than welcome to. I'll have an article up in a minute on Hoist the Colors about Eli. But 6'10", stretch 4, didn't play a ton at Providence last year, but is a guy that can shoot the 3, good size. I'm told could be in the Brandon Johnson type mold. So we'll address that more in our next segment as that news is now public. All right, spring football. Philip, we were at practice yesterday, and spring game a few days away. And I got to say, I think the last practice you attended at least saw a good amount of, like, the defense was getting torched. Am I right?
Yeah, that was middle of the week last week. I think Tuesday.
Yeah. Middle of the week last week. I would say since then, I feel like the defense has responded. The last few practices, especially yesterday, were much more competitive. The thing I've noticed most is, like, during that practice we were there, and Josh Aldridge even said afterwards, he was like, man, that was one of our worst practice. And he said yesterday during his press conference, outside of one day, which I think was that practice, they've been pretty consistent defensively. There's been good back and forth outside of that one day. Yesterday, I thought there was really good back and forth. And what I noticed most is a defensive back would make a play. I saw Tymier Brown had an interception during one red zone drill. The next time the ones went against the ones, Yannick Smith beat him one-on-one for a touchdown. Then you had Key Crowell, who's a D2 transfer that played a lot, All-American at the D2 level. He had a nice pass breakup, 2 nice pass breakups, I want to say. And then later on, the same receiver caught a pass against him in tight coverage. So to me, you're starting to get more of the back and forth you want to see at this point in spring. If I'm out there every day and the defense is getting run over or giving up deep balls left and right, or the defense is stopping them on a daily basis, that's when you start to get concerned, Phil. But I feel like I'm encouraged by what I'm seeing now compared to maybe that one day that hopefully was just a little bit of a blip.
Yeah, you hope so. I mean, there's always going to be a couple days that are, one side wins by a landslide. And you mentioned there that Josh Aldridge said really he said the best thing that has happened this spring has been consistency. And he mentioned, like you said, just the one day. Then on the flip side, JDB asked what he wants to see more of, and he said consistency. He didn't come out and say they've been bad in the scrimmages outright, but what he did say was he felt like things would go good, and then when the lights turn on and they head into the game stadium, they haven't been as good, and it should translate evenly, and it hasn't, is what JDB said. So with that being said, it sounds like each team or each side of the ball is winning half the time. And like you said, that is a good thing. You don't want to go into the season going, well, that offense is pretty damn good, but we're going to have to score 70 points a game. Or, wow, that defense is good, but if the other team gets more than 10, I guess we're hosed. So you don't want to feel that way. And right now, when you mention some of those things, and it's not just offense over defense sometimes and defense over offense, but that you actually see a guy get beat and then he goes out there and beats the same player, that lets you know that the players have maturity. They're not letting it get in their heads because they're going to get beat on game day. You're not going to win every play. And then it also shows, like you said, that it looks like both sides of these balls are evenly, or both sides of the ball is evenly matched. And when you have an evenly distributed team, you feel like, on any given day, if the offense is bad, the defense can pick them up, or vice versa.
Let's hear from John David Baker a little bit, and I also got a cut from Josh Aldridge, ECU first-year defensive coordinator. But let's hear from first. Philip will play the second cut, the position he feels is the most competitive. I will say I still think the offense right now just a little bit deeper, more talented. I do think the defensive scheme is going to allow these guys to maybe even play above their talent level at times. But this offense has a chance to be special, and I think that's why JDB is pushing for consistency. I asked him, because for me, I don't know what is the best position on this offense. I feel pretty good about every position right now for the most part. And I asked him the position he feels is the most competitive at this point. If he had to pinpoint one, here was his answer.
Our receiver room is really deep, and we are really, really talented in that room. I would say that's probably the deepest, because you've got a good mix. You got a good mix of young guys that are really talented, but you got some older guys that just came in or have been here that are really talented, and they just continue to make plays, and that's what they got to do. And the more of those guys we can use, it's just like up front. Like we like to rotate guys up front too, just like we do out wide, because it keeps them fresh, and especially out wide. Like if we can keep those guys in a rotation, keep their snap counts down, that way when it gets later in the game, like they're fresh and they can go run down the field and make a play when they need to. So every room is competitive, but if I had to pinpoint one, it'd definitely be that room.
One thing I've noticed, Philip, is we have seen we've seen Yannick Smith get I would say a high number of reps this spring because I feel like he's still a sophomore and he wasn't even in for spring ball last year. So you have to remember this is his first spring with the program, so he has a lot of growing to do. But we've seen very little of Anthony Smith. Not that that's a bad thing. They just want to make sure he's healthy. We know what Anthony Smith can do. He's been through a lot of spring practices during his time at NC State and East Carolina. I just feel like they have 6 to 8 receivers they can count on right now. Jaquez Petaway is a transfer from Oklahoma who's looked really good in the slot. Jaron Waiter is a redshirt freshman who's looked really good in the slot. Peyton Mangrum from South Carolina, older, 6th-year college guy, can play all over. Brock Spalding right now is not even able to practice fully. He'll be another guy who can move all over the offense. You've got a couple of guys that really haven't been talked about a lot in Malik Leverett, who is a redshirt sophomore, 6'3", outside receiver. He's looked good this spring. Keelan Robinson has shown flashes in the past. He's looked good. Tyler Johnson, didn't mention him, Penn State transfer. And this doesn't even mention the tight ends. I just feel like I don't know how they're going to get all these guys on the field, which is a great problem to have compared to maybe in the past when you only had 2 guys you trust outside, Philip.
Yeah, because look, at the end of the day, first off, receivers kind of like D-line, right? They rotate a lot because when you run a fast-paced offense, now sometimes you don't want to sub because you don't want to give the defense an opportunity to sub, but also when you run this up-tempo offense and they're constantly running down the field, because we have seen in this passing game, not trying to give anything away, but I think it's clear, man, it's on film from last year, they like to push the ball down the field. And so you need a lot of depth at those positions. You need depth at every position, but it's not like, hey, man, if the starting center doesn't mess up, he's going to play every snap. Well, it's not that with the receivers. And then also you want Caton to be able to trust multiple guys. Yeah, it's nice to have a number 1 and a number 2, and you hope in a way that they're so darn good you never have to throw the ball to anybody else. But that's just not realistic, especially in today's football. This is not the era of the power I 21 personnel where the same 2 receivers are going to play majority of the snaps. No, this is a type of game where it is receiver by committee, the same way it's like defensive tackle by committee, and you don't want to have guys fall off. And, one of the things that they've done a really good job at, you mentioned Brock Spalding, is teaching guys multiple positions and finding guys who can play the X, can play the Y, and can play the Z. It's something that they have really prided themselves on here at East Carolina, and I think it's something that will continue. And, man, they're switching them like hockey lines out there at practice. You get 2 plays of these receivers, guy makes a great play, and then the next group of guys comes in, and it looks like there's no fall-off. And that's not just from catching the football. That's their ability to run routes, their ability to block, and clearly their knowledge of the playbook.
One of the biggest things I've watched this spring is try to get a gauge on who are going to be the next group of leaders. Rajay Harris, as big of a leader as you can have, exiting the program. Now, hopeful NFL draft prospect or signing prospect. Dustin Hall was the leader at center up front. We'll start there. We'll hit on the defense here in a minute. But I asked John David Baker, how do you manage leadership? Do you have to force it with some of these young guys? Does it happen naturally? Here's his answer to that.
I think you have to you got to let some of that stuff happen naturally, but also I think you've got to force people in front of the team. You got to force people in positions and situations where they got to speak to their teammates, and I think that gets lost sometimes. I think we just expect, well, you got to be a leader. You got to be a leader. Well, he may not know how to be a leader, and so we got to make sure we do a good job and we're intentional about putting guys in position and make sure we also have people behind them to support them when they go step out and try and be a leader, because that's a hard situation. You go stand in front of your peers and try and hold people accountable. Like, that's the hardest thing. Like, it's easy to encourage somebody, it's easy to tell somebody good job. It's a hell of a lot harder to go up and tell somebody like, hey, I think you can do better, I think you can be better. So I think we got to do a good job as the summer goes, and we've got guys that can be that. We've got guys that have been here, and we got new guys that have been here for 3 months as transfers that I think have, leadership qualities that can step into some of those roles to replace, a Rajay, to replace a Dustin Hall, guys that for us last year were huge in keeping the team together and being able to finish how we finished.
And then defensively, I think I don't know if concern is the right word, but definitely intrigue on who those guys will be because you lose Elijah Morris on defensive line. You lose Sarad Ware, Deontay Johnson. At linebacker, Mike Edwards, Zakai Barker are gone. In the safety room, you lose Omar Rogers. At corner, obviously, Savone Ravel, Isaiah Brown-Murray. So I would say almost all of the leaders from last year's defense are gone, at least vocal guys. So who's stepping up on defense? Josh Aldridge, first-year defensive coordinator, was asked that as well following Tuesday's practice.
There's probably a guy in every room. I see I see Picard in the D-line room. He does a really good job with that. Him and Zion, and then Day and Sam, and even DJ Johnson in that linebacker room do a great job. And then D-Money and Jamarly back there in the back end. Obviously, you always have Tegan Wilk that's played a lot of ball, right? So down the middle of our defense is where I see a lot of our leadership, and that's usually what you want, So there's a bunch of young guys, too, that, are starting to come out of their shell. I saw Keith Crowell flash today. I was really proud of him. And just need to continue to develop leadership just like we're developing talent.
All right, there is Josh Aldridge. And I would say, Phillip, the most encouraging thing from hearing a lot of those names are these are guys who have been in the program and have learned behind some of the older guys. And so, there is that natural progression of, yes, you can have transfers come in and be a leader. Yes, Caden Hauser would naturally be a leader as a quarterback, but you got to have one in every room. And it sounds like guys who at least have been in the program have learned, and now it's their turn to lead.
Yeah, that is a big thing, man, because, look, there's so many times in football, it's a team game, but you get divided, right? Talk about your team meetings, your film study, indie period, and there does almost need to be a captain of each position room. And a lot of times guys are going to respond better to somebody who's been in the program. Nothing against transfers, but when you've been in the program, you're already kind of looked up to, you're respected, as well as you're not drinking through a fire hose with all this install that's going on. I mean, also in his press conference, Josh Aldridge said they installed about 70% of what they're going to do this year here in the spring. And he also mentioned last week that the install was pretty much done heading into last week. That tells me they did 70% of what they're doing in the first 3 weeks. So when you're a new guy, you've only got so much time to go out there and be a leader. So obviously it's a little different this year with the defense because everybody's kind of new to an extent. But, you need them. Like I said, you need that guy in the film room. You need that guy in the indie periods who can just step up and do the dirty work so the coaches don't have to.
All right, we got to get a break in. We got a few comments about cornerback and who's emerging there. I'll answer that on the other side. We will address that. Also talk about the new ECU basketball commitment. That article up now on hoistthecolors.net, so check that out. We'll talk about him next after these messages as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
Sanford, Fayetteville, and Charlotte. And yes, they are Pirates.
Dogwood State Bank, member FDIC.
Turn your car into cash with an instant Kelley Blue Book offer from Barber Hendrick Honda in Greenville. Go online to barberhendrickhonda.com to value your trade, explore inventory, and apply for financing, all from the comfort of home. At Barber Hendrick Honda, we have great deals on new inventory and an extensive used inventory that includes all makes and models. Schedule service for your vehicle online and take advantage of our monthly specials. Barber Hendrick Honda, a proud member of the Eastern North Carolina community at the point of Greenville Boulevard and Memorial Drive.
Are you in need of a new doctor? Right now, for a limited time, Dr. Billy Smith is accepting new patients in his new office in Greenville at Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine. The new office is right across Stantonsburg Road from ECU Medical Center. Dr. Smith has been practicing in the Greenville area for years. He is board certified in physical medicine, lifestyle medicine, and has a passion for the people of Eastern North Carolina. Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine specializes in helping patients with weight loss, diabetes, high cholesterol, blood pressure management, among many other medical conditions. And Dr. Smith is working with a local pharmacy to provide more affordable medication if insurance denies your prescription for brand name meds. Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine will guide your journey to live longer and live stronger. New patients are being accepted now for a limited time. Call for an appointment now to Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine, 252-364-1108 in Greenville. That number again is 252-364-1108.
Daughtridge Gas and Oil has been your dependable propane supplier for 95 years. Their trained technicians can service and properly install all your propane and natural gas appliances. Plus, Daughtridge Gas and Oil is your backyard expert with fire pits, grills, smokers, and more, including quality outdoor furniture at their Greenville Patio and Hearth Shop at 1901 Charles Boulevard. Go by and see the knowledgeable staff at Daughtridge Gas and Oil for propane delivery or call 756-1345.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
matey!
Back to the show with Steve and I go on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in. Hoist the colors here on a Wednesday. It's April 23rd. We got basketball recruiting news. We'll get to that in a second. We did have some questions in our previous chat about ECU spring football sidelines. East Carolina wants to know how have the new corners looked, and has anyone emerged as a potential number one? Rohan also with the same. Cornerback, I would say, has been one of the more up and down positions of practice thus far, as you would expect. New corners coach, Teron Williams coming back, and then a lot of transfers coming in. Tymier Brown had an interception yesterday. He's been in the program now. I believe this is his third year, former North Carolina transfer. He's looked better. I think if I had to say who is a number one corner right now, Jordy Lowry, FCS All-American at Western Carolina, has been the most consistent guy I've noticed. Really all the transfers. Jonathan Aikens' transfer from Maryland has been solid. Key Crowell from the University of Indianapolis, a little undersized, but plays with attitude and does not back down. I like that. So I think those four guys make up your top four right now. Wouldn't be surprised if they added someone as well. All right, Philip Pilkington producing today's show. Our next segment, by the way, we're going to catch up with Scott Rogers. But we've got some ECU basketball recruiting news. Of course, a few days ago, Pirates picked up their first transfer in junior college point guard Corey Calker. Now we've got another piece to the puzzle. Eli Delore, transfer from Providence College, 3 years of eligibility remaining, 6'10", 225. From my sources, going to be more of a guy who is a stretch post player in terms of he can go out to the perimeter and knock down shots. Now, he did not play a lot at Providence, but when he did, he was a capable shooter, 5 of 15 last year. He redshirted his initial year on campus. It is important to point out he reclassified up a year in high school, similar to Sean Jenkins with ECU baseball. So he actually entered college a year earlier than anticipated. Redshirted that year, so he's still developing, but has 3 years of eligibility remaining. 6'10", can step out. You watch his high school tape. He shot 38% from three on 88 attempts as a junior for Miller School, which was his final year in prep school. I think, Philip, the ideal plan for Delore is if they have – I think they're going to add a true five, who I think could be close to committing, according to some sources. We'll see how that ends up playing out. But I think in an ideal world, this guy he can play the five, but certainly he can also play the four, kind of like a Brandon Johnson type. Step out, shoot the three, rebound at a high level. Also known as having a pretty relentless motor as well. So your thoughts on the addition of Eli Delore?
Yeah, I think this is a good thing. I mean, even if he's not, this phenomenal lights-out shooter, just when you have a four that can stretch the floor and that they have to have somebody step out there and guard him, that presence will open the lane for drivers, especially with the point guard that we got yesterday. He was a really good driver and good at scoring, going to the basket. So This is just a solid piece here. I don't think he's going to come in and be the best player on the team. The only thing that really worries me with him, and not that I've sit there and watched his tape, I'm not going to act like I have, he's committing about a foul about every 4 minutes of game time. Now, when you're not playing a lot of minutes, which he didn't, he was only playing, 6-8 minutes a game, you can be a little more aggressive because you don't have to worry about fouling out. So, maybe that was solely what that was. But if this guy does become a vital piece of the team, we can't have him sitting on the bench in foul trouble. So there's that. But anytime you got a guy who can step out, it also means usually he can guard the perimeter pretty well. So if we're playing another team with a stretch four, you don't have to worry about him kind of being big and dorky like some post players are at the collegiate level. So pretty good athlete, and hopefully this will help spread the floor some more and add some scoring. I don't think he's going to be a prolific scorer, but the fact he can do it inside and outside just helps a lot.
As we talked about it going into the offseason, I think East Carolina had some specific needs in mind, and a stretch four was one of those. Again, I'm not saying this guy's going to be Brandon Johnson or put up anywhere close to his numbers, but could be a guy that does some of those things, creates floor spacing while also adding size. And you've got, as Philip mentioned, a downhill point guard. Now you kind of need a true rim protector or a true post presence. This is not going to be a guy who's going to back guys down in the paint. It's really not his style. I think at Providence, you get in the Big East, there are some legit big men. So I think that was kind of his struggle as he dealt with a little bit of the physicality. He's got to continue to get stronger. But I think he's, like Philip said, he's got a role. And it's all about putting the pieces of the puzzle together at this point. We've kind of said in the past, Philip, last year's roster, like the players, I think the sum of the parts were not as great as the individual talent because of how the roster ended up being constructed. Like Jordan Riley, CJ Walker, RJ Felton, all great players, but none of them were really. RJ became a perimeter player almost by default, but that's not really his strength, I would say. And then you had CJ and Jordan who do most of their damage inside the arc. So now I think they're looking at this more as how do these pieces fit together, and maybe we're not landing a guy who's averaging 20 points a game. Maybe that comes down the line, I don't know. But it sounds like there's a more deliberate roster construction plan in specific put into place with some of the pieces we're seeing versus, hey, let's just go out and get the best athlete we can find who has the highest scoring numbers.
Yeah, it does feel like this team, just the way it's being constructed now, they're looking like they're going to have more depth 1 through 8. Whereas last year it felt like you had 6, maybe 7 guys that were legit players. And, there's nothing wrong with, like you said, not having a true 20-point-a-game guy if you've got, a lot of 10 to 12-point-a-game guys. Now, the tough thing does come is late in games, you still need that guy that can take over games. RJ was that guy. So you still want a guy like that. Who knows, maybe the point guard being the shot creator that he is can become that guy. It's always nice if the guy who can be your takeover guy at the end of the game is also one of your best ball handlers, because that just brings up a lot of opportunities. But I still think they're going to need a dead-eye three-point shooter if they want to compete in the modern day of college basketball.
ECU, I still think definitely targeting that as well. They had a recruit on campus from Mount St. Mary's who ended up not committing, but is still on the table. We'll see what happens there. Carmelo Pacheco, I think he's visiting UCF now, but I'm hearing there's multiple more visits in the coming days. We'll see what happens on that front. Still want to get a shooter from a guard position, and definitely at least one more shooter, if not multiple more shooters, and a true big. So got a couple scholarship spots remaining. 4 as far as I know right now. If there's another big that ends up committing, which I think the staff is hoping for, then you have 3 spots, technically speaking. But right now you at least got 4 with what's out there publicly. So time or a chance to add some bigs or another big and some shooting as well. So there is your latest on the ECU basketball recruiting front. We'll continue to keep you posted as well. We did have a question in the chat. Brian says, what happened to Trenton Cloud? I have not heard his name in a while. Trenton Cloud is a redshirt freshman receiver from the Guilford County area, was one of the highest rated recruits in last year's recruiting class, dealt with an injury early in preseason camp shortly after enrolling. he was a guy that has speed but needed to develop physically, so I think that set him back a little bit. Now he's, I would say, around the third team at receiver, just needs to continue developing, but I do like his long-term upside, his speed and big play potential, but I would say a little bit behind the other guys still developing right now. All right, let's get a break in. When we come back, we'll have Scooter Scott Rogers. He was recently at an East Carolina baseball game in person, but not calling the action. So we'll get his take on that, just having a grand old time at UAB's baseball stadium, whatever the name of that is. So we'll ask him about that experience, the Atlanta Braves. We'll catch up with Scott Rogers, get his take on what's happening with ECU Athletics as well. This is Hoist the Colors on a Wednesday.
Hey, it's Jim Wells again with Wells Roofing and Gutters here in the beautiful community of Lindale, Bedford. At Wells Roofing and Gutters, we believe in quality first. And that's why we use Certainty shingles, which are manufactured in Oxford, North Carolina, a local company. In the event you ever do have a claim or a problem with your roof system, they're local and they come and take care of us in a timely manner. We could leave off some accessories and we could certainly save money, but we believe at Wells Roofing and Gutters in installing the correct way per manufacturer requirements, and we warranty your roof both in-house and also with our supplier, who is Certainteed. For a job Wells done, no shortcuts taken, and a good quality job on your home, give us a call today, 252-227-8403. We also offer financing, 12 months, no interest, no payments.
This is about you, your family, and the health of all who live in Eastern North Carolina. This is about the transformation of a health system into something more powerful and more human. About creating new ways to treat disease and keep you well. This is about ECU Health, which is to say, it's really all about you. ECU Health. Minds, hearts, purpose.
You have a choice when you invest in insurance, and when you choose First State Insurance Advisors, you're working with people you can trust. Clark Stallings has deep ties in the community. His team, including Keaton Smith, Regina Asby, Phil Leva, Max Joyner Jr., Max Joyner III, and Ginger Smith, provides knowledgeable and professional advice. First State Insurance Advisors is an independent insurance agency. They offer all types of personal insurance as well as various types for business. Call or email First State Insurance Advisors today. We want to be your trusted choice agency.
Other restaurants claim their food is fresh and fast, but are they friendly? At Moore's, you're treated like family the minute you walk into their doors. With locations in Winterville, New Bern, Swansboro, Morehead City, and Jacksonville. We've been practicing what we preach since 1945. At Moore's, our barbecue is slow cooked and smoked over real wood daily until it's so tender it's falling off the bone. Combined with our fresh chicken, cooked to order seafood, and homemade fixins, we're sure you'll agree. If it's not Moore's, it's less.
Climb aboard as we set sail and hoist the colors.
Arr, matey!
Back to the show with Stephen Igo on 94.3 The Game.
Welcome back in, Hoist the Colors, Wednesday edition of the show. Again, we've got NFL Draft coming up tomorrow. We'll have the NFL Draft special on Thursday. Talking a lot of ECU today. Looking forward to the draft, though. We'll touch on Savone Revel, where we think he ends up tomorrow's program. But right now, we're going to visit with an old friend, Scooter Scott Rogers. He joins us. Scott Rogers, as Philip welcomes him appropriately to the show. How's it going, man?
Oh, doing great. It's 80 degrees here in Warner Robins. The Braves were on a nice win streak until last night, but at least they figured out how to hit the baseball a little bit. And then, but yeah, things are good. Approaching the summertime, which means jobs picking up and everything. But it's been a great little over 6 months here in Georgia.
So we'll talk about the role, how it's going, obviously with Little League now in Georgia. But how much are you missing Greenville? I know you've been back obviously a couple times, but how much are you getting homesick?
The only part that I've really missed are Tiebreakers, Sup Dogs, and Nash, my three top restaurants in Greenville. That's what I've the most. The Tiebreakers, boneless wings have probably been the most things that I've missed. But no, I mean, obviously everybody gets homesick a little bit, right? I mean, obviously I was in Greenville my entire life. This is the only time that I've lived anywhere outside of Greenville, and so it certainly was an adjustment. But the way I look at it, I mean, talk to you guys pretty much every day over text. Other people I text pretty much every day, and so still staying in contact with everybody. Still, getting the information needed for East Carolina things on this end and everything. So, but yeah, I mein it was definitely an adjustment, but it's been a good one.
All he misses is the food. Me, Igo, RV, Clay, and Weingarts. We're just chopped liver, man.
I just said I text everybody about every day, and you just named everybody. So
I know.
Well, hey, the food is what makes us all go. So I get it, Scooter. Scott Rogers with us, former play-by-play voice of ECU baseball. We'll touch on that in a minute, but Southeast Region Assistant Director of Little League, not the assistant to the regional manager, but that is his official title. Scooter, how is the job going? As you said, Little League obviously picks up in the summer quite a bit. So, I imagine this may be the last time we're able to get you on for quite a while.
Yeah, things are definitely starting to pick up. I mean, a lot of Florida has been playing now for a long time. I mean, we'll start first part of June is when tournament season will start, which is commonly known as All-Stars. And so that time frame is certainly approaching. And I mean, we're only just a few months away from region tournaments and World Series as well. And so that time frame quickly is approaching and everything, but it's definitely a busier time of the year as things start to pick up. But that's exactly why I got into this role. This is stuff that I've obviously dealt with on the side back in Greenville and everything, and just taking it to a different level here. So it's been good to be a part of, and looking forward, obviously as the summer unfolds and we head into the All-Star season.
So Scott Rogers was at Young Memorial Field is the name of the UAB baseball team. I had to look it up as the name I sent over
to go on text.
Yeah, that's what the name I said over text message is inappropriate for airing. It looked pretty bad though. We'll get into ECU's performance here in a minute. What'd you think of Young Memorial Field in Birmingham, Alabama?
Not the best at all. I would say seating wise, maybe 200, 300 people max in that stadium. Softball was much bigger than baseball. Dylan Johnson, obviously play-by-play announcer now, was sitting under a tent right outside of the press box, and the wind was blowing very hard every single game. And so at times I thought that tent was going to blow away during the games, but it was a interesting experience. And we talked about it last year with FAU, that setup there. UTSA thankfully is inside, but wasn't the best of setups last year as well. And so it shows kind of where teams are and programs are in the American at the moment compared to places like East Carolina, Tulane, and Wichita State, where facilities are at a very high level compared to a lot of these newer schools that are in the American where they're not.
Well, speaking of the bad facilities, every couple of innings you would hear what sounded like the bleachers collapsing. A little birdie told me that may or may not have been you. What did you keep putting your foot on that made it sound like coming over the radio? And I've got people texting me going, you guys are playing like weird noise in the studio. No, Scooter is tearing up the bleachers. It's all Scooter's fault. What the heck was that?
There was a loose bar right in front of my seat, and every time I would move my leg, it would hit it, and it made the loudest noise ever. So if you heard that on the radio broadcast, I take full blame. But one of those was not me, but the majority of them were.
Dang it. Also, Addie texted me and said, tell Scooter I said hey.
Addison, what's up, my man? Always the color guy for Washington football in 94.3 The Game.
Yeah, we had a few fans on Hoisted Colors say that somebody was dropping a bowling ball on the the broadcast on the bleachers. So no, it was just Scott Rogers banging his foot on the bleachers.
Some of your posters take advantage of trying to complain about me, so they probably enjoyed it. And now that they have this information, they can utilize that perfectly.
You will definitely be ribbed pretty hard on HTC going forward. Just part of it, man. Hey, when you're in the ECU media or former media, you're gonna get it. It's just what it is.
That's right.
Where would you rank? Is Young Memorial Field is it worse than UTSA or FAU? Like, what's the worst?
It is definitely worse than UTSA. I would say probably worse than FAU last year. Being there in person and seeing it. I mean, I know inside of their press box, they really don't have any kind of booths or anything in there. It's just one open room. So, I mean, you had their radio broadcast going at the same time as TV, and they were sitting probably 10 or 15 feet away from each other and everything else going on in there, which is why Dylan had to sit outside during that series. But, yeah, I mean, it was definitely an interesting kind of setup there, obviously stadium-wise. Field-wise, it didn't look terrible. I mean, they had a very nice scoreboard, video board on top, everything like that. But that stadium definitely could use some updating. And I had heard from someone, overheard it in the stands, that the reason softball was much nicer is they had a donor that passed away a few years ago and basically left money to the school to redo the softball stadium. And so that's why that is in much better condition than baseball. That's kind of what I overheard. Makes sense. But I would say that UAB definitely needs to start investing. And it's not just UAB. I mean, we talked about FAU last year where radio has to sit outside. And there's other schools in the American where if you're going to be in this conference for baseball, you're going to need to invest in the facilities to get to the level of the East Carolinas, of the Wichita States, and of those Tulanes that have the top-notch facilities in the conference.
No doubt. And the broadcast was also extremely subpar. Couldn't even see home plate or left-handed hitters as far as the TV broadcast, not the audio broadcast, which Dylan Johnson did a great job on. But speaking of Dylan Johnson, have you been able to give him any advice or tips along the way as you were once in his shoes?
Yeah, I mean, I've given him some tips, talked to him a lot, obviously, before the season started. And I told him over the weekend, I said, dude, I've probably been able to listen to maybe a handful of games all season long just because of conflicts on my end with stuff here or, just not being able to get on with a radio broadcast, basically. But, the biggest thing for a young broadcaster, and I had to have this my first season, Philip will tell you this, just with us talking then, was confidence and being able to know you can do this job, know you can do it at a high level is the biggest thing. And so just having that confidence, ignoring the noise is something that Cliff Godwin would say to players, and the same thing to a broadcaster as well, is ignore that outside noise and just go up there and do a great job at what you do.
And speaking of not broadcasting, which you were not doing, you were just hanging out on the fence. Plenty of TV time for Scott Rogers on the ESPN Plus broadcast. How different was it kind of taking in the game, specifically an ECU game, as a fan instead of broadcasting it?
Yeah, it was definitely different, and especially being down at field level, basically, with how close you could get at UAB. If I would have known I would have been on TV where I stood, I would have never gone there to begin with. But yeah, I mean, it was different. And obviously this team has so many new faces compared to last year. And so there was really only a handful of players that I kind of know on the personal level, sort of say. And so I stayed at the team hotel there. And so passing a lot of them, and in the hallways and stuff like that, you would look at them and you go, I have no idea who this player is because I haven't been around this team and they don't know who I am, obviously, either. But it was definitely different, and being able to experience it as a fan is something I haven't really had to do in quite some time. So it was definitely different, but being able to just go and see a lot of the guys, obviously the ones that I know, getting to see, the coaches as well, and get to see people as well like Chip Welch, Sean Phillips, two of my closest friends that I met through East Carolina baseball as well. And just to be able to catch up with them, see them in person was the best part about the whole trip.
Pirates are 24-17, Scooter, and really kind of out of at-large contention. Last night's game against NC State canceled due to weather will not be made up. Just maybe you got out at the right time, or maybe it's your fault. I don't know. What do you think?
I'll take the blame. Somebody will blame me for it. Probably Philip will.
Hey, I don't do the point fingers on the message boards, okay? Now, I do know that most of the Braves games you've been to this year until this week they had lost. So me and somebody, I can't remember, I think it was me and Chip, were blaming you for a lot of the Braves losses, though, when we had dinner last week in Charlotte.
Yeah, I mean, I can take that blame. I mean, I will say, being able to pretty much go whenever you want to a Major League Baseball game is a great feeling to have. And it's going to be very nice when they beat the Mariners in September.
Well, I mean, that'll probably happen because the Mariners can't win on the East Coast. That's just how it goes when you're in Seattle, and I won't even deny it. Johnny Robertson, speaking of Braves and ECU, says last Friday was the only time that East Carolina and the Braves have won on the same day in 15 tries. So, which Scooter was present at that game on Friday. So maybe he's a good luck charm. Bruce Willis says Scooter are a good luck charm. So I'll tell you what, Scooter, if ECU goes 3-0 this weekend after getting you on the show, will you agree to come on every week until they lose?
I think we can make that happen. I can suffice 30 minutes of my lunch break to be able to do that once a week.
We'll do that.
And I will be in Clearwater as well. I will be going to Clearwater as a fan this year to hang out. So obviously the 22 season was a run, and obviously everybody knows what happened last year late in the tournament. But yeah, we'll see if that quote unquote good luck charm, that'll get put to test in the conference tournament for sure.
I think we should record a Hoist the Colors After Dark with Scooter when he's been in Clearwater. From the story Sean's told me, that'd be fun.
Well,
Scooter
that might not
behaves himself.
I didn't say he didn't behave himself. I just said that he, is more forward.
I don't know if those stories can be told on the public airwaves.
That's why it's Hoist the Colors After Dark.
Yeah, I mean, as I've told Phil, as I told Sean last year with it being his first trip, what happens in Clearwater stays in Clearwater.
There's no doubt about that. Especially, I might be going to Clearwater this year, Scooter. So let's have a ball if it happens. I still haven't finalized that yet. It's either going to be I'm going to be there, or we're going to be doing a bunch of watch-alongs, which Scooter will not be a part of because he won't be here.
Can you send Brady?
I can probably send Brady. If I don't go, I'll probably send one of our interns on our dime so they can make the most of it. So we'll figure that out. I'll tell you what, guys, let's get our final break in. We'll come back. We'll wrap up the show. We got a couple of questions we got to get to. I do want to ask Scooter just more of his thoughts about this year's ECU baseball team. We'll touch on Major League Baseball a little bit because we know Scooter doesn't watch other sports. We'll be right back after these messages.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Your roof is a vital part of protecting your home and family from dangerous storms and hurricanes. At Assist Roofing, we install and maintain metal roofing that provides precise protection. Add value to your home while lowering utility costs with a fortified roof to last a lifetime. With 0% financing, grants, and Energy Star Green Roofing tax credit available. Call us to schedule a free consultation so you can weather any storm with confidence.
Make every day electric on the Kawasaki Electro 20 electric balance bike. Maximize the fun with long run times, impressive top speed, and Kawasaki build quality. Easy adjustability and smooth handling make everyday riding more enjoyable. And the standard MTB type tires provide off-pavement capability. The Kawasaki Electro 20 is the electric balance bike that's built to rip. Go to Ron Ayers Motorsports, Memorial Drive north of the airport, Greenville.
Your confidence makes everything look good. You see the world in vivid color, not black and white. Swing through your neighborhood Fantastic Sam's cut in color. And let our experienced stylists take you from everyday to extraordinary.
Fantastic Sam's hair salons are locally owned and operated. Our full-service salons are conveniently located in Goldsboro, Kinston, Greenville, New Bern, Jacksonville, and Calabash. Stop in today at Fantastic Sam's, where the possibilities are endless.
If you are interested in living longer and living stronger, Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine is accepting new patients for a limited time. Finding a caring physician can be a challenge. Dr. Billy Smith is board certified in physical medicine and lifestyle medicine and has been practicing in the area for many years. Call for an appointment now to Eastern Physical and Lifestyle Medicine, 252-364-1108 in Greenville. That number again is 252-364-1108.
Looking for a great deal on a new Nissan?
At Greenville Nissan, we've got a great selection of new Nissans for under $30,000.
The stylish Nissan Sentra, offering top-notch fuel economy. The Nissan Altima, known for its comfort and technology.
The Nissan Kicks, the perfect combination with its compact design and performance. The Nissan Versa, delivering incredible value without compromising on features. And don't forget the Nissan Rogue, an award winner for 10 years in a row. Drive it home just for $22 down and $349 a month.
Visit GreenvilleNissan.com today.
Greenville Nissan, where we drive to serve.
Hi, I'm D.R. Alligood.
And I'm his daughter, Jessica.
For 11 years, we have built quality driveways and parking lots for both your residential and commercial needs. We also offer free on-site quotes to have your custom driveways built the way you want.
252-946-1227.
Pirates. Back to Hoist the Colors with Stephen Igo. How good is this on 94.3 The Game?
All right, welcome in. Hoist the Colors, final segment here. Philip Pilkington producing. We've got our old pal Scott Rogers, Scooter, hanging out with us for another segment as well. He was at UAB this past weekend. And Scooter, we've talked about the kind of the weird season to this point, but it is, for you, what do you make of this team? What's kind of their, I don't know, what has kind of led to this up and down nature to this point?
Yeah, I mean, if you would have asked me this question back in the first part of March, late February, I would have said trying to find an identity of this team. Obviously, with so many new players, you're trying to find yourself, trying to get the vibe going in there. But now you're in late April. I mean, you know what you are. You know what this program is. And I'll steal a line here from what Coach O would say a lot of times on broadcast when we would get to this point. I would talk about a player. Okay, he's a freshman, and Coach O would say, hey, this is late April, early May. Like you're not a freshman anymore. At this point, you're 3 months into your college career. And so they know what they are. They just got to go out there and do it. Try to stay as consistent as possible, obviously. And then, just being able to be yourself out there and be East Carolina baseball. I think that's one thing that this team really could use is really, looking at the culture of this program, knowing that you're always going to be that underdog sort of say. I mean, that's the East Carolina mentality, right? And take advantage of that and go out there and just show that you're East Carolina baseball and represent that jersey with pride. And I think another thing that, probably a lot of these newer guys really didn't understand coming in, especially in the American, is that when you're in these American Conference series, that when that other team sees East Carolina walk in there, you're going to get their best shot every single game. You're not going to get that same shot that FAU is going to give UTSA, a month from now, or you're not going to get that same shot that UAB is going to give, let's say, for example, Tulane. They know that East Carolina program. They know what East Carolina has done in the American for so many years, and everybody wants to be East Carolina. You always have that target on the back, and you've got to know that going into these games. But, right now this team, I think, has still got the ability to obviously win some games down the stretch here. Obviously a conference title is not out of the question yet. They're still right there at the top of the league. It's still very much attainable. It's just now, with it being late April, you've got to lock in and you've got to truly play East Carolina baseball from now until the end of the regular season.
Braden Burris, Scooter, you got your first look at him. What did you think of Braden Burris in person?
Braden Burris, an absolute dog, is the best way to describe Braden Burris. And I see Michael Buscemi in the background waving at me.
He said he misses you.
Just an unbelievable. I'm sure he does. I don't miss winding up mic cables at 5 o'clock in the morning, though. But Braden Burris is obviously, he's the best hitter on this club right now. And with him being such obviously a freshman coming in and doing what he's doing at this point has been unbelievable. His swing is amazing. He's just a solid contact hitter. Obviously, he's not your most quote unquote power guy out there, but when he steps in the box, you're going to get a base hit out of him, probably 9 times out of 10 with the way he's hitting the ball right now. But he's really been the focal point of this offense here lately, and having him there in that leadoff spot, which is something that Cliff Godwin has done a lot of with those types of hitters in his time at East Carolina. You go back, obviously, to Bryson Worrell just a few years ago. Zach Agnos was in that leadoff spot, same type of hitter with those guys. And he starts that offense off getting that base hit. And as we saw in the 2 wins against UAB, and even to a point on Sunday as well, getting that leadoff guy on to start the game and come out there swinging is really sets the tone a lot of times.
All right, Scooter, we got about a minute left, so I'll give you the chance to touch on the Braves. 9-14, still the second worst record in the National League, only above the Rockies. By the way, shout out Zach Agnos, who I know we could do a whole show on. But what's going on with the Braves? I know they've been playing better. Is it a flash in the pan, or is this going to be sustainable through the season?
Yeah, I mean, I think right now they're finally starting to hit the ball a little bit and stay consistent. I mean, you obviously look at the averages compared to what they were at the beginning of the year. They're obviously much higher now, and I mean, you throw in the fact that they started the season against 2 of the best teams in baseball, which obviously isn't an excuse, but now that you get kind of a set lineup, they've had the same lineup here for the past few games. This is where they've been winning. I think that will certainly help. And then their bullpen's been really good here recently. I mean, you look at what they did in that Twins series. I think the bullpen only gave up 2 hits in that series, if my memory was right. And so, I mean, they obviously have been turning the corner. It's just trying to stay consistent. I mean, obviously we got 130, 140 some games left of the regular season, so plenty of time to make it up and everything. But yes, playing much better right now. And if we can hit Miles Mikolas of all people today and get a series win over the Cardinals, that would be nice heading into a West Coast swing here.
All right, Scooter, we're out of time, man. It's been awesome to catch up, and we'll have to do it again. If the Pirates go 3-0, we'll see you next week.
Absolutely. I'm looking forward to it. Hopefully the Pirates get back on the right track this weekend.
Appreciate you, man. Awesome to hear your voice. Shout out Philip Pilkington as well for producing. We'll be back tomorrow, 12 noon, talking NFL draft. We'll see you then, previewing.
This has been